listening to the Cricket Podcast.
I think it was a disgraceful performance, and I think it should never be permitted to happen again.
That is very good.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we are covering the IPL final. Congratulations to Chennai Super Kings. Commiserations to the Kolkata Knight Riders. The battle of Dhoni v Morgan went the way of Dhoni, and we're going to talk about it for, a while. Max Rowe Brown. We're going to introduce you first as the Chennai Super Kings fan in the house. How are you feeling about your boys bringing home the championship?
I'm very, very happy, Jack. It was it was a superlative performance. Absolutely dominated from start to finish, apart from the Lord bowling a 10-ball over at the end, just to delay things a little further, just to savour the moment as much as he could. But you know what? Having been drawn CSK out of a hat as of about 8 months ago, I was properly into it. Yeah. I was getting proper nervous around halfway through when Venki and Shubman Gill were actually looking like they might chase it down, and I'm now a very happy boy.
Well, congratulations. I am, of course, Jack Hope. It says, if you're watching on YouTube, down there, what my name is. We're going to introduce you last, Ross, sorry. We're joined by Dan Weston. How are you doing, Dan? Me, you and Max, all correct on calling CSK as the winners on our little preview show from earlier on today. Feeling pleased with yourself?
Well, I think I self-proclaimed myself to be CSK's number 2 fan behind Max Rowe Brown, obviously. And so I'm absolutely delighted with this. I messaged you guys at one point saying Morgan 50 off 20 incoming, but it didn't happen. So ruined the English media's narrative, so I'm delighted about. And
up in the top left corner, if you're watching on video, or if you're watching on audio, just in your ears, is Ross Leg. Ross drinking a cider leg.
Hello. How are we doing?
Oh, I thought it was going to be more.
Well, I thought you didn't ask me a question, did you? So it was polite not to just answer a question. Right, Jack, I'm actually fantastic, thanks, because KL Rahul has not won his beloved orange cap.
He didn't even come second, mate.
Yeah, it didn't go. It fills me with joy. It fills me with so much joy. Oh, yeah, I'm buzzing.
Great. Before we get into the podcast, Ross, do some messages. There you go. There's a question.
Thank you very much. Follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Go on to Patreon. Jack, Max have created a brilliant ball-by-ball data universe for the IPL where you can get every single bit that you want, and then you can turn yourself into Dan Weston, who obviously famous for his exploits with the Birmingham Phoenix. So maybe the next Dan Weston, who knows? And then we're also sponsored by Woodstock Cricket. And if you want a cricket bat or want any of their gear, use code TCP25 and you get 25% off.
Yeah. And social media, all the way at the top. Point up. Point up, yeah. The Cricket Pod. There you go.
Yeah. Like this video. Subscribe to our channel. We're going to be doing all of the World Cup. So, yeah, it's all guns blazing from here.
I can't wait. But at the same time, I'm already tired. It's an interesting dynamic.
You wait till the Ashes, mate.
Yeah, and hit like and all the stuff that tricks YouTube into thinking we're popular. There's a lot of people since we started doing these live shows are trying to get in on our live show action. Cricket.com rubbish. Right, fellas. The Kolkata Knight Riders, they lose to Chennai Super Kings in the final as we predicted. Let's go right back to the beginning, I think. I think we should tell this story as a whole piece, because I think some of the really important stuff does happen straight up. CSK, they lose the toss. They're put into bowl. Now, at the Dubai Stadium, or whatever it's called. I think
they're put into bat. They're put into bat. Let's get it right. Let's get it right from the outset.
Oh, you know what? We normally have a summary. Max, have you got a summary written?
Yeah, I've got a summary.
I'll do the summary, then I'll answer the questions afterwards.
But yeah, you know what? The first thing in the summary, Jack. You
lost the plot.
You absolutely nailed the first section of the summary. Yes, Morgan continued his specialist captaincy vibes and won the toss again, and again put the opposition in to bat. A few overs in, target number 1 was achieved for CSK. Get Gaikwad the orange cap. He did it. We were all happy. Ross was very happy. With that out the way, he rescued Narine to a fielder, but little did we know that was actually all a very clever ruse, because Moeen and Uthappa has been undergoing age reversal surgery, and he proceeded to bludgeon all of KKR's usually very economical spinners, and dovetailed really nicely with Faf Du Plessis, who put the seamers to the sword, taking a particular liking to poor old Lockie Ferguson and his wide half volleys. Amidst all of that, Tripathi went off injured, making a successful chase of an ever-increasing total look a lot less likely. And all the while, Morgan took a further step towards his specialist captain role, because he was even forgetting how to pick up the ball, tossing it around like a bar of soap for most of the CSK innings. Then it was Moeen Ali's turn to come in, and he just took on all comers, and he and Faf took it to the close. So so confident was the South African that CSK had enough. He even magnanimously refused to hit a 6 off the last ball so that Ruturaj could keep his beloved orange cap.
That is a classy gesture, by the way.
It was a very good thing. And the best bit about it was he made it look like he was trying to hit a 6 for the team. It was supreme.
And the bowler was happy because he got a wicket.
It was straight out of the de Grandon playbook. But anyway, KKR, they had a chase on their hands. And to be fair, as necessary, they came out firing. They put some immediate pressure on the opening bowlers. Venki had clearly got into the zone by catching up on some Strictly Come Dancing, because he decided to foxtrot around the crease every delivery, which didn't work at first. But fortunately for him, Dhoni had prepared by greasing his gloves up with olive oil to put down the simplest of chances to really put CSK in the driving seat. But Venki took his reprieve on board and looked like he was on his way to a special performance. But unfortunately, when your number 3 can't walk and your captain's lost control of all of his limbs, perhaps the pressure on one man is a little too much. And after the most bizarre reprieve I've ever seen in a game of cricket for Shubman Gill, when Jadeja thought he had his man, but specialist captain turned 007 agent Owen Morgan stole the control of Spider Cam and managed to intercept the ball on its way out of the sky to save Shubman Gill from his demise. We thought that maybe there was just an outside chance, but while KKR had the drone on their side, CSK had the Lord on theirs, and there's no overcoming the power of the Lord as he took 2 quick wickets, which precipitated a familiar KKR lapse. That's a hard one to try and get to work, but I tried. Their only hope at that point was a one-legged Tripathi and a hopelessly out of form Morgan, neither of which worked, surprisingly, and it all proceeded a bit weirdly to a comfortable win with a meandering close, which I believe was it Jack you put on Twitter was just the IPL looking quite drunk by the end of it. It all went a bit bizarre. But there was enough time for a really good self-relay catch on the boundary. We all enjoyed that. And yeah, bleed yellow.
It was like a cricket-themed LSD trip, the last 3 overs of this match. They needed so many to win that they were never going to win. Then Shivad Mavi was like hitting a 6 off the front foot over the Safari at third man. It actually landed on top of the Safari after it hit the
on
stanchion.
Top of the Safari. Yeah.
I've never seen that. I've never seen anyone hit the ball sweetly in the wrong direction.
It was a beautiful thing because you just saw how safe the Safari is as well. Yeah. So any external pressure, another selling point.
In the future, we're going to see matches where there's 50 bonus runs for hitting the Safari. So none of these games are out of the question. KKR would have won if there's 50 bonus runs for hitting the Safari. Yeah,
and then Ferguson was hitting 6s. Then Shardul Thakur, I don't know what happened.
Lost the plot.
Yeah, lubed his hands up.
He rejoined the academy.
Yeah, he rejoined the academy. Exactly. And then, yeah, I don't know. We'll get to that.
It was kind of like when you're playing like Brian Lara cricket on the PlayStation, and the game's already gone, and you've got your little brother or your little sister kind of there, and he's like, do you know what? You have a go. see what happened, and just carnage. Just they're spamming every button, and carnage happened.
Yeah. Or they turn the difficulty settings down for your little brother as well, and so it goes from like, I can't score any runs with Owen Morgan to Shivan Marvi. Like, I don't even know what that shot's called. Like, the third man drive. For 6 over a car. Anyway, back to the beginning of the game. KKR, they win the toss, predictably, because it's Owen Morgan. Owen bloody Morgan. He puts the other team into bat. I think Dhoni said he'd do the same. It sort of made sense. At this ground, the Dubai Mega Stadium, 60% of the games that are won by the team batting second. So it was advantage KKR. First up. The average score batting first, I don't know, at this ground this year, do any of you know it off the top of your head? What do you reckon it was? Just shout a number out.
167.
153. So it's actually pretty low. I thought, I was doing some commentary over on Guerrilla Cricket. I said if CSK got 160, 165, they'd probably win this game. That turned out not to be true. But it was important that CSK really went for it up front. And I think, after a couple of, after a little bit of a look, Faf Du Plessis played out a couple of deliveries. I think that was their game plan. They were aggressive from ball one, Ross, and it paid, pretty early dividends in terms of them getting off to a great start and dominating the power play.
Yeah, I actually really like Faf Du Plessis, and as much as sometimes you're a bit of a fanboy over certain people, and sometimes the stats don't back it up. I remember back in our preview show, last year, CSK was so bad. It's unbelievable how bad the CSK were last season to the turnaround that they're there today. And Dan, I think we'll kind of talk about Dhoni, and we'll talk about actually how that team has actually got every bit of lemon juice out of the lemon we talked about on the last show, and they've squeezed that lemonade. But I think what is absolutely amazing is just how that turnaround came around, and Faf Du Plessis has been at the heart of that, right? His return to form. South Africa should be going, please go and play for us in this World Cup, because I think they're going to miss him.
Yeah, and instead of which, he's going to go and play for us at Bangla Tigers in the T10. So I'm delighted with that. We've got him in our books. Ross, if you're the ultimate fanboy, I'll see if I can get an autograph for you.
Oh mate, if you get me a Bangla Tigers shirt signed by Faf Du Plessis, I'd wear it every day.
I will try my best.
I'll be sitting there only when you're not wearing the Papua New Guinea top.
Oh, that's all yours, Max. That is all yours.
So he was batting well. Gaikwad was good as well. We've already said he takes the orange cap, deservedly from KL Rahul, deservedly with 3 more innings. And
a slightly lower strike rate, ironically,
from King Legend. It's all set up pretty nicely, and then Max Gaikwad is out. Were you sad to see him go? I think he's definitely been in the team of the tournament, and it might have been nice as people who like Ruturaj Gaikwad to see him light up the tournament in style and really stamp his name at the top of that list of next generation Indian batters.
I think he's done that already. He's won the orange cap, and I think that was the thing for me. I said before the game, as long as Gaikwad scores 24 runs, I'm going to be happy whatever the outcome. So that's if he'd kicked on more, it would have been nice. But Faf did that, and that's the beauty of that opening partnership this season, is that one of them seems to have always done the business. And the orange cap for him is good enough, I think, and a victory in the IPL. I don't think he's going to be asking for too much more than that.
Yeah. Dan, before the podcast, we were talking a little bit about how teams batting first don't always, it's quite hard to know what a good score is. And the team that bats first quite often comes in under par because they get it wrong. They leave too much too late or whatever. CSK, if you were going to rate that innings as a bat first innings, out of 10, what are you giving it, and who are the stars?
In a final, 10. Absolutely. 10. I mean, because 190 in a final, especially when you're looking at the average score of 153, you're thinking they're completely in the box seat, aren't you? Faf has to take the points, but I think also you give a lot of credit. I mean, what we've talked about is me and you, Jack, a lot, is these these 15, 20 ball innings are around 200 strike rates. They're massive. They're absolutely huge. And you can get away with an opener striking 32 off 27 when you've got 31 off 15 and 37 off 20 to make up for that. These high strike rate innings are massive. And that was a big part of the reason why CSK made 192.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get onto them in a little bit more detail in a second. Just look at the raw numbers. One thing that really stood out for me, Dan, was that although CSK only hit, I think it was 22 boundaries for a boundary strike rate of 18.5%, which is good, but not stunning. 10 sixes. That's a big difference maker in a game like this.
And when you're hitting 10 sixes, that kind of ups that boundary percentage to effective 20% or something like that, because you're hitting so many more sixes than would be expected with that boundary percentage. So that's massive. You take that all day long.
Yeah. Ross, you said you were going to do some research into this. How exactly has Moeen and Uthappa de-aged himself?
So it's all about how when you get a job and people tell you to dress for the job you want, Moeen and Uthappa is actually dressing for the age he wants to be, and he's gone for the mohawk. He's got the little thing round the back dyed red. All of a sudden, he's 21 again.
Yeah, playing like one.
The film, like, was it? Well, it was something like I can't remember, 15 going on 50, 14 going on 40. I can't remember what the film's called.
13 going on 30.
I was close.
16 going on 60. 12 going on 20.
Right, you're on the right ballpark.
11 going on. Oh no, that one doesn't work.
Yeah. But Moeen and Uthappa, absolutely. The last two innings, there was a bit where there was loads of stuff on Twitter around Suresh Raina not playing in his CSK's first final here. And it's amazing, right? Uthappa has absolutely stepped up. And who could have seen this coming? The guy has been such a weird signing alongside Pujara as well. But what can they now say? Uthappa have more IPL trophies than certain captains. So
Pujara's now won more IPLs than Virat Kohli.
That's good.
Yeah,
but he deserves it, doesn't he? Because he got hit a couple of times at the Gabba. Max, Moeen Ali. That's all I'm going to give you. Moeen Ali, talk to me.
Yeah, well, as I put on Twitter earlier, it was 4D chess from Morgan once again, thinking ahead to the World Cup. What a time to try and get one of your key players back into some form and back into some confidence, and that was ideal. But being a little more, a little less tongue in cheek, brilliant from him. He did exactly what was needed from him at the time, and just helped keep the momentum going from the innings. And I think that's what ultimately set apart CSK and KKR. I mean, they got off to very similar starts. KKR actually got off to a better start, but it was the kicking on from there where it really changed. KKR started to slow up. Dhoni got his bowling changes right again, whereas the CSK just kept going. Moeen and Uthappa went. Moeen Ali came in, just picked up from exactly where he left off. Picked up this in particular. What worked really well was how they focused on attacking the spinners and taking, Faf just nerdled a spinner. Moeen Ali and Moeen and Uthappa went for them, and that was that was like taking matchups the other way around, looking at batting against bowling matchups rather than your off spinner against your left hander, and they absolutely nailed it.
Moeen Ali, or was it Mavi that bowled a short ball to him, and he just smashed it. Like when you get pulled in front of square as a fast bowler, it's a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
When you get pulled way in front of square, it's Moeen Ali has got your number, and he launched him. Absolutely, it was effortless. Like Moeen Ali is an incredible player, and I hope that the England selectors are actually sitting there going, "Do you know what? We might actually have to pick Moeen Ali in this T20 side because he should be playing."
And you can have that hitter in the middle order rather than as like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah. Well, look. Owen Morgan's already got that position nailed down, lads. We don't need to worry about that. 10 out of 10, I think, is a great shout for this innings from CSK in a final. 192 for 3. Sometimes, when a team batting first is only 3 down at the end of their innings or 4 down at the end of the innings, you think, they haven't squeezed the juice from the lemon. But I think the lemon was squeezed. We didn't need Jadeja. We didn't need Dhoni. We didn't need Ryu, who's had a good tournament. These guys, they went out there and they just... they went for KKR. What I thought, let's sort of move on to the bowling a little bit here. What I thought was interesting, and we talked about this on the micro preview we did as well. We said KKR's route to victory in this game was going to be the spinners keeping things tight. The spinners' economy rates 11. Shakib Al Hassan 33 from 3. Varun Chakravarti 9.5. He had a real shit job at one point. He had to bowl the 19th over to Moeen Ali. Which is not what you want to be doing if you're a spin bowler. And then Sun on Narine, fair enough, 4 overs, 26 for 2. I think it's fair to say, overall there, Dan, that the route to victory that we thought was there for KKR was basically snatched away from them. I don't think you can necessarily blame these bowlers. CSK were just too good.
Yeah, they turned into intent merchants this year. Last year they were shambles in terms of just trying to nerdle it around playing like 2008 cricket. And this year, they kind of kept the same personnel with the exception of Moeen Ali, really, who we spoke about in the previous shows was just such an astute purchase. And makes a mockery even more of the decision to let him go previously. But also I think we give credit to CSK because not just in this final, but we talked about their 10 sixes that they hit in the comp, but they finished with they were the only team this year in the IPL to finish with a 6 percentage of over 6%, which is pretty impressive, very very high indeed. And they had the highest boundary percentage as well by quite some distance, almost 2%. So credit to them. They've come out and this, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well. This CSK team you clearly can because they turned from a bunch of nerdlers into intent merchants, and fair play to MS Dhoni and to Stephen Fleming and the think tank at CSK for doing so, because that's a very 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 hard achievement.
I'd love to see a documentary on that. What they did, was it what was the Netflix documentary on Mumbai Indians?
Mumbai Indians, the advert for the Ambanis.
Yeah. I would love when Mahendra Singh Dhoni releases a book, him and Fleming kind of write the art of cricket or whatever they're going to write together. That bit will be amazing because genuinely, we cannot understate how bad their brand of cricket was last year, right, Dan? Yeah, their whole thing was off, and yet this time, and Gaikwad, them discovering Gaikwad right in the last 12 months or so has been huge for them, and in him developing his game. But actually, their whole approach has been different, and again. Comes back to squeezing those lemons, baby.
Squeeze the lemons. That's the thing now.
We've talked so much about lemons. We haven't even talked about Nathan Lemon.
We'll get onto the lemon. One person we have to put on the wall of shame today, or that's not really a thing we have. But Lockie Ferguson, 4 overs, 56.
Typical Kiwi in a final, wasn't it?
There we are. I tee it up, you drive it down the fairway.
Well, instead of decorating your crack den properly, maybe you could start a wall of shame as the feature wall.
First one, we'll just put Lockie about here. Yeah.
Right. That's
Owen Morgan can go. Where can he go? About there.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what I think we'll do on this pod. We'll go through both innings, and then if we've got some special topics that we want to discuss, I think, and we've got some questions, and we'll get to them. Just before we do, if you're watching on YouTube, do us a favour: hit like, hit subscribe, write a comment, tell us your question, copy and paste the URL, put it in WhatsApp, add all of your friends to a WhatsApp group, and send it to them. They'll appreciate that. Let's talk about the Kolkata Knight Riders, because they had one option, and that was to go balls to the wall and try and keep up with the run rate, have a great power play, and Max, you were saying, I think just before, or was it just at the beginning, they actually started off pretty well. They must have been making you a little bit nervous. Ross.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Max, you're frozen. Ross, same question to you, but imagine you're a CSK fan.
Yeah,
From my
I'm
point of
back.
view-
I'm back, guys.
Oh,
Sorry
you're there,
about that.
Max. Go on, there you go, Max. Have your internet
Yeah, I'm back,
stability
sorry.
question to you.
Yes, my connection is unstable. Sorry. Yeah, no, I was worried. I thought that drop from Dhoni in the first over was quite something, and I think that really would have pretty much put it to bed as far as it goes. I think Venki was the danger man, as he proved, and they're ahead of where CSK were at the time. Like I said, at the end of the power play, and not losing a wicket, 100%, you'd be concerned. But I think the one thing that gave me comfort was the knowledge that they only basically had one guy left after the openers who might do it for them, because I think it needed to be their top four to do it. I didn't, Morgan wasn't going to suddenly randomly be really good again. Yes, Jack.
Who's the guy?
Tripathi and Rana.
He was injured.
Yeah, that was there. They only had one guy left, Rana.
Okay.
Tripathi was injured. Rana went first ball, so that was nothing to worry about there.
I wouldn't have been worried about him, to be honest.
I think, I think he's good. He's good against the spinners. He takes down the spinners well, and I think that it was sort of a case of making sure that Dhoni did the right thing and picked the right bowlers against the right batsmen, which he did. He held the spinners back a bit.
I think they just read it better. I think they actually turned up and read the conditions better than KKR did from a CSK point of view. I think they got the team selection obviously right. And I mean, they were saying on commentary that Dre Russ was actually fit to play in this game. If Dre Russ is fit to play, Dan, in that scenario, Dan, if you're the team selector, are you putting Dre Russ into this pitch has only been used once, or are you going, actually, you've not played in a while, it's going to be a bit difficult for you?
I tweeted earlier that I think the game theory optimal solution was to drop Morgan for Dre Russ and then let Morgan field. that would have been ideal. I didn't actually realise that he was past fit, because that's absolutely mind blowing that he was left out. I genuinely thought he was injured.
We did talk a little bit about how it would be quite difficult for them to. I mean, unless we're assuming that he was able to bowl, he was fit to bowl here.
I'm all for self-confidence of players, and Jack, you talked earlier about your deep dive into the data, which is obviously available on your Patreon.
Patreon.com/thecricketpod.
The best captain, we think, is MS Dhoni, and he adds 1.3 runs, we think, on average per match. Right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah. So a bit more if they're defending.
Okay, but ballpark figure, that's where we're at. Yeah? So, with the best will in the world, we cannot say with a straight face that Owen Morgan is worth more than 1.3 runs over Andre Russell. Because if we're using analytics to work this stuff out, right, Owen Morgan is worth far less, as in minus runs, than Andre Russell in this situation. And any captaincy gain is clearly not going to outweigh that. So,
also bear in mind that behind the stumps is someone who captained KKR until last year.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't have someone else who can do the job with you.
Just give it to Shubman Gill, mate. Swadin, thank you in the chat, by the way, for the super chats. It is a little bit painful that they've played a guy that's averaging 9 at a strike rate sub 100 this year in the IPL. Hasn't really been good at cricket at all for the thing 12 months.
When does he stop? This is the thing. I mean, he's had probably the worst year you could ever wish to have, and no one really. I saw one article in the Guardian questioning whether he's fit to be England captain in the World Cup. No one else even talks about it. I said earlier in the previous show, it's like there's a media embargo against it, that we're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know why they just don't go, right, Morgan, you're now the T20 coach. No, we're going to split the responsibilities from Chris Silverwood and do it this way. Morgan, you're now the coach. Whoever comes in. Yeah. There's no shame in just going, do you know what? My eyes aren't quite there anymore.
No, there isn't. And he once was quoted as saying, if I don't think I merit a place in a team, I will not pick myself. Well, unfortunately, I don't see here that he's merited a place in his KKR team today with Andre Russell fit. Yeah. And he's gone against that. And I think he'll pick himself all the time in the World Cup as well. And I'll be genuinely amazed if he doesn't play every game in the World Cup. Yeah, really, really will.
Yeah, it's you talk about turning points. It probably is a bit of a turning point when you just decline to play Andre Russell so that you can play Owen Morgan. I mean, Andre Russell is the absolute. He's a Ferrari.
Yeah,
and you picked a Fiat Punto. Ross,
I think. Yeah.
I've got a question for you. Back in the game, we can go into Morgan v Dhoni again, and it's a hot topic of ours. Tripathi's injury, that is a bit of a game changer for KKR, right? He's, as Max is saying, he's one of the players that might have been able to keep the momentum up after the openers do well in the power play. To have him come in at 8 and clearly be unable to run. It's a bit sad, isn't it? Should cricket have a substitutes rule? What's the solution to this?
So I think there's kind of a couple of things here. So first and foremost, Tripathi's been in pretty good form actually in the whole of this UAE stint for KKR, and actually the KKR batting unit has actually been quite cohesive. I think when it comes down to the lower order, Morgan may or may not fall into that category, but Narine, Karthik have been actually contributing to that. But him and Nitish Rana have been really important to their resurgence, alongside obviously Venki Iyer. And I think when it comes to actually how Tripathi's injury goes, instantly they're up against it because CSK are going kind of all guns blazing and doing reasonably well. They then hit a massive total, and then KKR sit there and go, well, actually, we're already a batsman down. I think mentally there's a massive impact on that KKR team to be like, well, we don't actually have our number 3. We don't have our number 4 actually playing here. And I think sometimes in a final where you need everything to go right for you to beat what is a pretty formidable captain, a pretty formidable team who's full of experience, been there and done it. And that's the bit where sometimes the data, and I know we love the data on this show, but sometimes it doesn't quite cut it. And actually the mental side of the game, because I completely disagree with old cricketing view that there's no such thing as pressure. I think it's a load of fucking bollocks, if I'm perfectly honest. Play in those games and you realise that occasion gets to players. And I think that today was a huge blow to them. Not saying they would have won with Tripathi batting, but I think it's mentally a huge blow for them.
Yeah, I think you can see, particularly towards the end of the innings when things were getting away from them slightly and Moeen Ali was teeing off, that some of the players were visibly, downtrodden by what was happening. After the high of making it to this point in the tournament, so you won that crazy playoff match midweek. You knock out RCB. I think that was a final over game as well. You win 5 out of 7 matches in the second half of the tournament to go from written off to the playoffs in the first place. You only get there on net run rate, and even then, there's a couple of moments in the Mumbai Indians final innings where you're like, holy shit, they're going to get 300 here and knock us out. It probably felt like it was destiny, and then Tripathi walks off. Chakravarti, who's been unplayable, is being hit for 6 for fun, and I think some of the players were, had possibly lost it slightly. I actually don't think pressure makes much of a difference, but I do think giving up makes a bit of a difference. And I think a few of the KKR players didn't believe that they could chase this score. With evidence, to be fair to them, they're not idiots.
I just realised they've got Andre Russell sitting on the bench.
Yes.
Imagine that scenario. Looking around at the bench and it's like, who can play cricket? Oh, there's no one over here.
That guy.
Why is he not playing?
Yes. Right. After Shubman Gill and Venkatesh Iyer, we should probably talk about Shubman Gill in a minute. The middle order goes 0-2, 4-9, 0-2 before Lockie Ferguson gets to 18. Max, what was going on there? Was this just good captaincy by Dhoni? He brings DJ Bravo on, controversially perhaps, to the 7th over of the game, bowls him a 2-over spell. That goes for 8 runs. All the momentum built up by Venkatesh Iyer in the power play sort of dissipates a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was it. That's precisely it. They were up with, like I said, up with CSK's score at the time. They were looking good, and it was time for Dhoni to decide what to do. He could have brought the spinners on. That's sort of generally the play, but he went with DJ Bravo, worked an absolute treat, and then suddenly you saw the rate. It got to that it was over 10, got up to 11, and then that's where it starts to get tricky, isn't it? You lose a wicket, and the guys who come in have to go for it from the off, and that's where things start to fall apart. CSK players went in from the off. It worked. KKR's players came in from the off, picked out fielders, picked out spider cams. It was that was it. That was the pressure built, and it either goes one way or the other, doesn't it? And they didn't have the talent to do it. I suppose on the day they didn't have it in them to get the runs.
Dan, here's a question for you. In your work as an analyst, how much time or how much thought do you dedicate to the possibility that the spider cam will intervene in a wicket-taking delivery and be ruled as a dead ball?
Well, I always say that you can't discount anything in analytics, so it's factored into all of my models.
I genuinely, that was definitely in CSK's favour. They might not have seen it at the time, but it was definitely in the favour of CSK. Like Gill was absolutely toilet today. He batted for 43 balls?
51 or 43, yeah.
Yeah, I said on a tweet that's 42 balls too many. He was pants today.
Someone on Twitter asked me, what sort of implications does a 51 or 43 have when you're chasing 193? So I worked it out, and if we discount extras, if you hit 51 or 43 and you're chasing 193, your teammates need to hit a strike rate of 184 to win you the match.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That tells you everything.
Killer.
That tells you everything that you need to know.
Yeah.
When you're hitting 6 fours in 43 balls, chasing 193.
That's why I have a go at KL Rahul. I got told I went
How have you
too
managed
far.
to make this about KL Rahul?
I got told today.
It's on brand, isn't it? It's on brand.
I got told. That's why we say it, right? That is why we say it about these innings at the top of the order that really, really suck all the life out of things. It's not saying that they're not good players. They just that kind of situation is so bad. Their situational awareness is so bad for the rest of the team due to the way they are consuming the limited resources they have at their availability at their disposal.
Do you want to know something about Shubman Gill?
Yes, please.
There are rumours that he is set to be Sachin Tendulkar's son-in-law.
Oh,
great.
Yeah. There we go.
Is he getting
Gossip.
married, or is it just some legal paperwork that's actually happening?
No, I think
and
through marriage. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, when you're chasing a score like this, and it's laid out in front of you that you have to do this, you have to play this way, and your contribution is to use a third of the balls and score 25% of the runs. It's
not good, is it?
It's brainless cricket, really. And then the whole spider cam thing. He actually picked up the pace a little bit. He hit 2 fours. I mean, I felt a bit sorry for CSK at that point, and I thought the wheels might come off because sometimes things like that happen in sports, and everyone's just running around headless, being like fucking spider cam, fucking umpires for 5 minutes. And they had gathered themselves quite well, but in the immediately afterwards, what did it go? It went the rebowled ball was a dot, and then it went 4-4. So it must have felt like a bit of a kick in the nuts, at least for Jadeja, who'd been hit for a couple of big sixes as well. So he probably wasn't thrilled. CSK though. I'm loath to criticise KKR too much here because I do think CSK got a lot right tactically, and then bowling wise, a lot of these guys had top performances. Deepak Chahar was good in the power play again. Only goes for 8 and over across 4 overs in the circumstances. That's good bowling. Josh Hazlewood I don't think anyone here would buy Josh Hazelwood in an auction, but he's returned figures of 4 overs, 29 for 2 in the IPL final. You know, he's the job well done. Enjoy your champagne, mate. Shardul Thakur. Now he ruins his own figures here because he was he was going to be talk of the town. You know, we've been talking about his promotion from Lord to God. I think maybe he needs a bit of a demotion back down to Lord to think about, you know, some of his actions here. Because although he does bowl like a game-changing over where he picks up 2 wickets, crushes the souls of KKR fans who, like anyone else that Shardul Thakur's ever bowled against, cannot believe that it's actually happening. He does have a pretty big impact on the game. He picks up Nitish Rana, or Nitish Rana gets out, depending on how you want to look at it. And then he gets danger man Sunil Narine in 1 over. Before we talk about the final 2 bowlers...
Venki, mate. He got Venkatesh Iyer and then Nitish Rana. Big man.
Yeah. Hazelwood gets Narine, sorry. Max, you know, as somebody who's never really on the receiving end of Shardul Thakur, except, you know, in your England capacity...
Yeah.
How much of an asset do you think he is for CSK? What will they pay to get him back at the auction? Will they be retaining the great man?
I only have 5 words for you, Jack. Shardul Thakur makes things happen.
Yeah.
That's it. How can you not keep that? How can you not retain that?
Yes. No, case well made.
You'd be mad.
Case well made. Dwayne Bravo, again, he's another one whose figures balloon out a little bit. The first 2 overs go for 8, game-changing spell. And then Jadeja, who got a little bit of punishment, picks up 2 wickets. The other thing about Jadeja, 2 outfield catches again. One which is like an NFL catch, where he catches it sort of in one hand. As he's going down, transfers it to his right hand so that he doesn't accidentally...
I mean, he's the only man in the world who could misjudge that and still take it like he did. It's a great catch.
He's sublime. He's an absolutely sublime cricketer.
Yeah. So after all that, we get to the end of the game. I mean, see, KKR obviously lost. Owen Morgan is batting. Dan, you think he might get 50 off 20, you know, personal vendetta against you. No evidence for this, by the way. Dan just sent us a message saying Morgan's going to get 50 off 20.
He lost his analyst head there.
Yeah.
I let emotion get in the way of it.
Yeah. That'll be a lesson to you.
It's all about the storyline. It's all about the narrative is what we try to craft.
Dan, is there anything from this innings that we're missing here? You know, it starts off okay, it all falls to pieces. Was this just a bridge too far for KKR, or did they do something wrong?
No, I think probably a bridge too far is a really good way of describing it. You say it's always just so tough to chase big totals in a final, scoreboard pressure, and the fact that their middle orders are very, very shaky. Bridge too far, bad selection decision in leaving out Dre Russ, and the fact that these finals are often just 50-50 matches. You know, they play this match 10,000 times, and there's probably not an overwhelming winner one way or the other. But the fact is that you can only play it once, and that's what happens. On, you know, I said this in the 100 final. I said this. You can say this about football, FA Cup, or whatever, Champions League. The fact is that if 2 teams get to final, they're generally good teams, and one of them has got to win and one of them's got to lose, and that's the most important thing. Now, if you look at the 3 teams who had the highest net boundary percentage in the tournament, it was these 2 and Delhi. So we can't argue with the fact that those 3 teams were the best 3 teams in the comp. And just a shout out to my friends at Sunrisers Hyderabad for this, because they ended up the competition with a minus 3.64% net boundary percentage. So they actually scored just over 13% boundaries and conceded almost 17% boundaries. So, and you know, to go anything over worse than -1 is some effort. So
they've got Rashid Khan as well. That's they've got Rashid. They've got the best T20 bowler in the world, and they still do that.
Yeah. And that shows you how bad they're batting.
They probably hit most of their boundaries as well.
Well, Sunrisers hit more than 2% lower, fewer boundaries than any other team in the IPL this year.
I like our dynamic there, Dan, because I shoehorn KL Rahul in just so I can get a cheap dig in. You shoehorn Sunrisers Hyderabad. I'm liking that.
Well, I've admitted, Ross, that they live rent free in my head. So are you gonna say the same about KKR?
Well, I just want to show everyone actually my KKR tattoo. So let me just take this off.
This is why everyone likes Max, because he never says anything controversial. He just says, I like things. It's very clever.
What did you call him? You on the chat yesterday made me properly laugh. You called him the midwife because he always delivers, and I really, really love that. Max Rowe Brown, the midwife. Absolutely love it.
I enjoyed that. I'm happy for that to stick. Get me a CSK shirt with that on the back.
Right, anyway, it all unravels for KKR. And the only other thing that I want to mention as in terms of moments from this match, I think, and then we'll do some questions or we'll ask for any other business from you chaps, was Deepak Chahar's nonchalant boundary catch. He sort of reached 2 feet back over the boundary, had a little look around, smoked his pipe, threw the ball up in the air, signed a few autographs, stuck back into play, caught the ball. Owen Morgan's gone. Like he just did it all the time.
I've got to tell you here, right? I can tell you, we're watching the game. I'm just recovering from COVID. My wife's now got COVID, and she's sitting on the sofa feeling all sorry for herself. And Deepak Chahar took this catch to send Morgan on his way. She stood up, waves at the TV screen, and goes, "See ya!"
She gave him the send off.
That's amazing. Oh, that's phenomenal.
That is like send-offs are supreme. I remember once when I was younger. It was when England were playing against Australia, and there's a guy called David Hanson who an old bloke who used to be at Three Bridges Cricket Club.
Well, I'm glad you named him for the listeners. Otherwise,
Well, it's part of the story, right? It's part of the story. Ricky Ponting got out, and literally he stood up out of his chair and goes, "Go on then, shovel off." And just as you go like this with the hand. So that I'm a big fan of a send off, Dan. So give our love to your wife and hope she gets better.
Thanks, Ross.
Right, Ross. Any other business? You're in charge of this bit. I am going.
You're going. You're just going to leave. You're off. I think what we can only sum up right in the fact that this is a mega win. I said it in kind of the opening soliloquy that I kind of went through, but CSK's turnaround from last year's IPL to this year's IPL is incredible. Like, it is absolutely supreme. I mean, surely no one is saying Dhoni should retire. I've not seen the presentations. He might well have mic dropped in that presentation and be like, "I'm out." But this is an incredible thing. And I mean, can Dhoni go through another cycle, Dan? Do you reckon he's got it in him, or is this all she wrote? Is it? Could there well be a number 11 captain role for Dhoni to kind of go through this, or is this going to be a case of maybe Jadeja takes over the captaincy?
I can't see him doing another 3 years, but you can never tell. But the thing was, I mean, CSK was so bad last year, right? They were so bad. They were like Sunrisers bad this year, and it gives hope to Sunrisers, and maybe some false hope that they could retain the bulk of their squad and turn it around next year. But no, I can't see it. But you can never write anything off with him or CSK, as we've kind of seen again this year.
And then for KKR, I mean, I don't think they'll be retaining Morgan.
Don't put it past them.
Don't put it no.
Yeah, I can see him coming back. I don't know if they'd retain him. They could probably buy him back for like a lakh now, can't they?
5p.
We could buy Owen Morgan if we had a whip round.
What's the lowest price?
Brand.
What's the lowest price of a overseas player's ever gone for?
It's 20, isn't it? That's the minimum you can put yourself in for.
I can't remember if it's 50 for overseas now. Then it might change. I can't remember, but. Yeah, 20 is the lowest you can go in for. I wasn't sure if it's just for locals.
Does it cost any money? So, say in an IPL auction, it doesn't cost any money to put yourself in there. So what we need to get an agent. That's what we need, Jack. That's what we need.
We can enter the IPL draft?
Because
there's qualification criteria. I've looked into it. Don't worry.
Look, Ross, I hate to shatter your dreams, but there's a couple of issues. There may well be this qualification criteria that Jack talked about, but I have seen before the original list of IPL players for the auction, and it's like there's players there we've got as much chance of getting picked up as. Like, literally, it's reams and reams of pages, right? But, and you're thinking, well, you got a chance. Maybe you could do an Ali Dia and get into the IPL.
Yes,
but no, unfortunately, you can't, because the franchises then, for the uncapped players in particular, I think, they cut all the crap out basically, and they give a list of players that they're interested in. So unless you can persuade a friendly franchise owner to put Mr. R Leg with his Woodstock bat into the auction list, then maybe
they'll do it like for brand purposes and marketing purposes. I'll be a superstar, and I don't have any cricketing ability. That's fine.
Maybe if you dyed your hair red like Moeen and Uthappa, you could relive. You get rid of all the mistakes that you've made from your misspent youth, and actually practice a cricket and get into the IPL.
I reckon I'll still average 23.
That's not too bad though. It beats Morgan.
I don't think we have. I just had a look. I don't think we've got many more questions on the old Twitter. And I don't think we've got anything on Patreon. I think we had one for the preview show, but
there's one. There is one. So yeah, Aryan Kumar has said that Stephen Fleming just said we don't value analytics that much. We go in with instincts more. What do we think about that?
Well, that's very good instincts.
If you've got a captain like Dhoni, then you might be able to get away with it. Unfortunately,
Dhoni's brain is actually just a supercomputer of all the analytics.
That's
real-time computes, so his instincts are just all the analytics,
and he has machine learning inside it as well.
Yeah.
There's also a bit of having, like, probably in the top 3, well, maybe top 5 best South African players in the last 15 years. You got Jadeja, who's in the top 3 players in India in the last 10 years. They've got a pretty good. DJ Bravo is also a brilliant T20 player. Like, it's not like he's taking a bunch of school children, is it? Like, he's got a pretty good.
That'd be a good next challenge, though, wouldn't it? Let's see how good he really is.
Can't with anything with kids.
Like I said, I want him to quit CSK and take over Sunrisers for a cycle.
Yeah, just as player manager, basically.
I think franchise coach is his next step. I reckon.
Would anyone like Max to do a brief eulogy on Dhoni, because it might be his last game? We should probably say some nice things about him.
Yeah, I mean,
just jokes.
If you want a proper one, I can do one. Off the live stream when I've got time to actually say something nice.
Oh, that'd be nice. Maybe
you can't off the top of your head say something about one of the greatest players of all time.
I don't. I think it's too much. I think you should write it down.
It needs proper.
Yeah. Somebody right at the beginning of the live chat said that they would like us to perform a tribute to Dhoni a tribute song to Dhoni to the tune of "When I'm 64." So maybe
Done.
Beatles.
Done.
There you go.
Give me 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's from Toffee, not coffee. That is. So thanks for that.
Right. Anything else?
That's the IPL over.
That's the IPL. You know what I was going to say? We should do who's your player of the tournament. We should at least recap the. Cause I'm not going to do another show. Go straight into the World Cup. Normally we do like a how did our predictions go and all that sorts of shit. That's fair to say. CSK prediction, not our finest moment. But
no.
What did we say? They come last.
No, I think it would have been fine if it wasn't for Delhi absolutely shitting the bed, wasn't it?
We said
buying the beers. Did we find out who's buying the beers? Because when we did the preview for the second half, we did predictions, didn't we?
Well, yeah, I'll go. I don't mind going back through and listening to that. But in the original preview, back in lockdown for us, in March, we all said CSK, apart from probably Max, fanboy. We said that they had no chance, and they did well.
I think I agreed. Look at me now.
I think we all thought Punjab would do quite well. No. Player of the tournament, though, Ross. I think I've talked for long enough for you to have a think about that. Player of the best batter, best bowler, whatever you want to say things about the IPL.
From my point of view of watching it last year and how much certain teams struggled and certain players struggled, I think what I like is a redemption story. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about that redemption. All about the IPL is the theatre of dreams.
Morgan 22.
Morgan 22. Hashtag Morgan 22. Very good. Very good. So it has to be Glenn Maxwell for me. I thought Glenn Maxwell's renaissance in this for RCB. He has been head and shoulders like their best player. He's put AB de Villiers in the shadows, right? And not many people are capable of doing that. And Glenn Maxwell has been supreme this season.
Max Rowe Brown, player of the tournament.
Player of the tournament.
What just things you liked?
I've got to say I'm a big fan of Venkatesh Iyer. He's
recency bias.
That's the
recency
people's
bias.
that's the thing. Like after the first couple of games, we thought this could be a flash in the pan, but he's actually kept it up really well, and I've been very, very impressed by how he's done. So we'll see whether he can continue that into next season. But obviously, that's just me trying to find a way of not saying Gaikwad.
Yeah, Gaikwad has been good, to be fair. Dan, you're called.
Max, you won't say Gaikwad, so I will. It's simple for me. You look at CSK last year and how they were really, really poor. You look at what's changed, and they've now got an opening partnership that is just solid every single game, and he's contributed. Yeah, Orange Cap took it off KL Rahul at the last minute and almost lost it to Faf. Yeah, for me, Gaikwad was a big difference in CSK this year compared to last year, and very well done from him.
It's a tricky one. People in the chat pointed out that Harshal Patel actually did win MVP, but I think anyone that goes for 37 in and over is disqualified.
And all his wickets were against
junk
tail
wickets.
Enders. Yeah, junk wickets.
I've never even heard of any of the people he got out. What did he take? 32 wickets?
32 wickets.
You have to say, that's a pretty good season by anyone's standards.
He also had a hat-trick like 4 times or something.
He had easy mode on.
Yeah, 32 wickets, an average of 14.34. But the thing is, it's the economy 8.14. It isn't that good. If he took 3 wickets in 2020. The last time he played an actual full season in the IPL, he took 17 wickets. So he basically sort of doubled the number of people he's getting out. I'm not buying that. I liked Varun Chakravarti. I thought he was a huge difference maker.
I think he deserves a mention
for KKR in the second half of the tournament. In particular, I hear he's got a little bit of a knock or a little bit of an injury. I hope that clears up because I want to see him at the T20 World Cup. Chakravarti v Pakistan. What's that? Next Sunday, basically the second game of the second round. That's big time cricket, and I think he had a great tournament. So played, Varun Chakravarti.
Looking forward to seeing him at the World Cup.
Are we prepared to wrap this cricket podcast up?
We are.
I
think we should say thanks to Dan. Dan, you've been an absolute pleasure to do this IPL coverage with, and your insights and what you bring is absolutely fantastic. And I just want to say it's very much appreciated. And I know that so many of the people who watch this show and interact with the show love you being on it. So thank you.
Yeah, and you've stepped in a number of times as well when one of us has been on our own to help us put a show together and keep the momentum going. So much appreciated.
Thanks, guys. Guys.
Dan, you're actually changing my mind. Dan, you're my MVP of the.
It's an honour. And seriously, guys, it is a massive honour for you guys. I saw on Insta earlier you got over a million views of videos, which is massive. So congrats to that as well. So thanks for just being a small part of that.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who listens. We didn't watch it 1 million times. Somebody else did the hard work.
I did 100,000, but I don't think they count.
Great. That is the end of our podcasting for the IPL. Not the end of the podcast. The end of this podcast and the end of the IPL. There's auction stuff coming up pretty soon, so it will not be gone for long. Patreon.com/thecricketpod if you want all the data to look back at the IPL. Do your own mega auction. Girish, one of our Patreons, he's doing that with the data. He's going to look at it, and him and his son and some friends are going to do a full mega auction, which that sounds like good fun. Or just work out what the value of Dhoni's captaincy is, about 1.3 runs per game. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at The Cricket Pod. We are sponsored by Woodstock Cricket. We will be back, I think, Sunday evening to do the first game of the IPL, or, before
World
then.
Cup.
World Cup. Man. Yeah, I was doing
It's been a long tournament.
Well, actually, we've got 2 videos out tomorrow previewing the T20 World Cup. They're going to be shit hot, so make sure you watch them. And then
remember when Max can't remember any of the Scottish batsmen's names.
Yeah, that's
Matthew
a good
Cross.
bit. What we did, this is flip's sake. What we did was we decided 5 minutes per team. That's what we do, and it's about skill sharing, knowledge sharing, increasing our knowledge of associate cricket very successfully. Well done, us. Go and watch those videos tomorrow. You can't do it now. Go to bed. Goodbye.
No, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Sorry, the thing froze, so we're still on. Now we're off.